Guys, hope all of us are doing great. My name is Ernest, and this is Ernest Sciences and Mathematics TV channel. In this particular discussion, we're going to look at a summary of reactions of group 1 elements, and we're going to use sodium as one of or just our representative element in this particular case. And of course, using this specific scheme, we're going to, of course, try to figure out some of the reagents which are going to be involved and some of the conditions which we're going to expose sodium to find the respective product. Now in this case, I'm going to give a few, of course, examples of the reactions which we are going to come across, of course, which are going to result in the formation of various products which I've just given in this particular scheme. Now in this case, at the center, we're going to have this particular product of oxygen. And in one of our videos, I discussed that we can obtain the product of sodium peroxide, which is first, perhaps we can start from this point by having a reaction between sodium and, of course, oxygen given as such. And this product is going to, this specific process is going to have a name which we are going to refer to as oxidation. So sodium is going to undergo oxidation to form this specific product of sodium peroxide, which I mentioned in one of our videos as one of the powerful bleaching agent which is going to be used, of course, in industry. And one of the applications, of course, which I said is used in spacecraft and submarines, in, of course, in production of oxygen as a product in reaction with some of the other compounds. Now, in this particular case, we're also going to see that this arrow is indicating the final product. So therefore, if we try to perform a process of hydrogenation, in this particular case, we're going to obtain a sodium hydride. So therefore, this is going to be a hydrogenation process in this particular case. So the combination of a hydrogen and sodium is going to result in the formation of a sodium hydride given as such. Now, if we try to look at this specific arrow, it's going to be leading from sodium chloride to the formation of sodium. Now, one of the essential processes that we had looked at in electrochemistry in trying to obtain this specific process is, of course, electrolysis. And of course, we have just mentioned this one as electrolysis, a process which is going to be involved in the formation of sodium from as one of the products from sodium, of course, chloride. So this is going to be the electrolysis of a liquid or just aqueous sodium chloride or sodium chloride given as such. And of course, specifically, we're going to look at those specific example. And then there are some of the videos which we have done on electrochemistry. I'm going to put a link. Kindly check on this specific process of electrolysis of sodium chloride so that we can be able to understand that specific process. Now in this case, we are not going to touch all of them, but if we try to look at this, we're going to have this specific product being formed from sodium chloride. And of course, this is going to be involving an introduction of the nitrate, and therefore this is going to be involving a nitrogen for oxide. And if we try to bubble this specific gas into the, of course, this particular compound, this is going to result in the formation of one of the product of sodium nitrate given as such. So in this case, we can have another product being formed from this particular compound, resulting in the formation of a sulphate. And of course, this is going to be involving the introduction of a sulfuric acid given as such. So this is going to result in the formation of a sodium sulphate and of course some other products which we're going to see. Now in this case, if we require sodium sulfide from this specific compound of sodium sulfate, so this is going to be a sulfide. So we're going to perform, of course, what we call heating, and this is going to be performed under condition. So this is going to be heating under a carbon. So therefore, heating under carbon of sodium sulfate is going to result in the formation of a sodium sulfite. And of course, the reaction between sodium sulfite, which is going to lead to a production of a compound referred to as sodium, of course, a carbonate. Also, this is going to be involving heat. And of course, it's also going to involve, this is a lime, of course, which is a calcium carbonate given as such. So in this case, these are various processes which we are going to, of course, expose the products of sodium and result in the formation of various compounds. And in this case, it's essential for us to understand various reactions which are going to be accompanying this specific scheme. Now in this case, for instance, I've talked about the reaction between sodium chloride and corn sulfuric acid leading to the formation of sodium sulphate. We can just have an example of that specific reaction whereby we're going to have this specific reagents reacting, and this is going to lead to the formation of sodium sulphate given as such, and then we're going to have another product given as 2HCl, which is of course a gaseous HCl, and then this is going to be a solid, and then we shall have, of course, this was corn, so we shall have this one given as such, and then we shall have this one given as such. So in this case, this is one of the reactions that we're going to encounter of sodium chloride, and in some of these reactions, of course, almost all these reactions are going to be accompanying some of the stoichiometric reactions which we are going to see leading to the formation of various compounds. And in this case, of course, we can as well check on these specific products. If we try to consider the reaction between perhaps sodium sulfate and a carbon, we can have this one given as sodium sulfate reacting. So this is going to be beta and a carbon. This is going to lead to the formation of course, sodium sulfide and the carbon oxide. So this is going to be sodium sulfide. So of course, I'm going to have this one plus carbon 2 oxide given as such. So in this case, this reaction is going to be having those 2 for sodium. So basically, this is going to be given as such. Kindly check on this specific, of course, atoms for those stoichiometry. So we're going to have that specific product given as such. But in this case, I just recommend perhaps if we, for the sake of stoichiometry, we're going to have this one given as plus carbon. And this is going to lead to the formation. So this is going to be solid. We're going to have carbon given as such. So I hope this space is legible. So we can just have a range of equations which are going to be used in trying to describe these various processes accompanying this scheme on the board. And that's going to assist us, of course, understand the various reactions which are going to be taking place for one of the examples of a group 1 element. So that is it for now, guys. By God bless you. Catch us in our next video.